Hey, welcome in. I'm Rita, and this is The Story I'm Telling Myself, a podcast about uncovering the beliefs that hold us back and rewriting them with truth, courage, and clarity. If you've ever felt like you're standing in your own way, you are not alone. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, Susan. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. I've been on a little vacation, so we took a week off last week, and we are back with this episode. And I'm so excited for this conversation because, as a career strategist, not only have you lived this, Susan, so we're going to get your lived experience, but you guide people through this every day. And I think so many people are in this place. But before we jump into the whole story, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to everyone. And if you're joining us live, please come to us in the comments and say hello.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on your show. How exciting.
Thank you. You know, you're episode 20. Like we're getting deep into the numbers here. So
you went fast. We talked a month ago, and I think you've added so many. I've been so impressed. So my name's Susan Collins. I am the Network Concierge. I used to say 25 years, but if we're being honest, it's probably more than that in talent acquisition. And I had the opportunity to have a front row seat to watching people thrive in their careers. And somewhere along the way, I had a coach. I had been given a coach for one of my big birthdays from my thought partner. And I started to shift what I wanted to do. I started to watch people really not own their careers, started to watch them worry about could I, couldn't I, what should I do? And I realized there was a bigger way for me to help people see their potential. Because when I was working for one organization, I could help them see their potential within that organization. But when you're interviewing someone and you are thinking they have no idea how good they are, like they have no clue how great they could be, you just sometimes want to pull them aside and whisper in their ears and say, okay, you could have asked for $30,000 more. You could have asked for a higher position. You could be doing this. You could be doing that. And so I made the big break. It's going to be 4 years in April.
Ooh, an anniversary coming up.
Yes.
Oh, it's special that we get to sort of celebrate that with you. The networkconcierge.com. That is how you are going to connect with Susan. And if you're not following her on LinkedIn, go find her and follow her. I love her stuff. Is it Thursdays that you do the reframe?
Friday reframe.
Friday reframe. I love the Friday reframe. I love a good reframe. So we all have this, I had this in my career as well. This moment, you're in a job and you're maybe not feeling it so much anymore. And you're thinking, you're letting your mind wander, thinking about something different. But there's this doubt, this seed of doubt in the back of your mind of, will I be as good? That was the name of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Talk us through your story of that and how you navigated that, Susan.
So many things have come to mind since we talked. I actually had a job I loved. I felt like I had made great progress. There wasn't anything they couldn't put in front of me that we couldn't tackle. I had an amazing team. We were leading talent acquisition for an organization. So we were managing the technology, managing the recruiters, making decisions on strategies, on how to attract people to the brand, all of these really wonderful things. And I felt really successful. And my coach, as everyone, has that chapter, they turn the chapter, it's like, and then the pandemic. My coach had said to me, I think you'd be a great coach. While you're on furlough, you should take these coaching classes, start to do these things. And for me, it was really difficult because I really fell in love with it. I saw the opportunities to ask the questions that make people think about what could be different for them. And I'd always been pretty good at asking questions because I was a recruiter. Like I started my career, interviewing people, talking to people, but I had a really big decision to make because leaving something that I felt where I felt that I could be successful for the rest of my career was really scary. And there were a few things that really came into my head. Number one, I had carried the insurance for my entire marriage. So I have two teenage boys. I have been the steady Eddie. My husband spent most of our career on commission. So I had the steady Eddie paycheck, the one that was always going to be there. I had a boss. I had a friend that had left corporate America a few years earlier than me, and I had a boss say, she's just doing that because she's not happy and she'll be back. And so not only was I hearing the voices in my head, but I was hearing other people's voices too, like all of that swirl about, could I leave something that I felt really successful at and go be successful again?
Yeah, I spent a lot of years in HR, and there was always that saying, you need to go when you're at your peak, right? That's the time to take the leap.
Mm-hmm.
And if the job opportunities aren't present inside of your organization, basically, of course, there's a limited number of seats, right?
Yep.
So oftentimes you could be an amazing performer. You could be the next person on the succession plan, but if there's not an opening, there's nowhere for you to go. So there was always this talk about, you got to leap. If you really want that next level of income, if you really want that next level of title, etc. But there's always that doubt of like,
yes,
how much of this is me? How much of this is the environment? How much of this is the chemistry? And can I port this chemistry with me to somewhere else? That's the question I always had in my mind.
The interesting thing, working with, men and women, I hear this different guilt when I'm working with women. They're like, I don't want to leave my team. I don't want to disappoint others. I don't want to, what if it's not better? And I always say, if you're happy and you know it, think ahead. Too often we wait.
I love that. Wait, girl, you got to back that up. You can't just drop that like a bomb and walk on. Come on, say it again.
If you are happy and you know it, think ahead. Too often we wait until we're like, I can't take another minute of it. I don't like my boss. I don't like this. And when we are at the top of our game, we can leverage opportunities better. We're better advocates for ourselves. We can see more, because when we are miserable, we can see miserable, right? Like we can just see this. Like I don't know what to do. But when we're like, I am cruising, things are good, people love me, I am on fire, then it changes the way we show up in interviews, in asking for raises, in asking for promotions, in getting people on our teams promoted. It's just a totally different game. So I hear people all the time say, I just want to lay under the radar. I just want to do what I can do. I want to keep performing, and hopefully, it will go like it is. But that's not how it works. Like every day you've got to get better. You've got to figure out new ways of doing things. You have to stretch yourself. So when you're happy and you know it, think ahead. Think about what's next. Talk about what's next.
Now, you made a specific point there of talking about what you hear women say about concern for their team and stuff like that, which makes me think that it's different, that men say or think about things differently. Did you intend that dichotomy?
I hear men worry about their teams, but I think that I hear women say it more, like they're afraid to leave them. And maybe it is, I don't know, maybe it's just this nurturing thing. Not that men aren't nurturing, but they don't want to leave. And maybe sometimes it's an excuse, right? Maybe it is that safety net. Like, I know I am okay here, so I'm going to stay and take care of my team.
Well, I spent some time working with insurance and wealth management kind of groups. I was part of a women's organization, really trying to support women, because that's historically a very male-dominated space. And how one person described this was as a female, she would walk into these conferences. I don't know if you spend any time with that industry, but I mean, it, big money events that are going on, and women may make up 12% of the population in the room.
Wow.
And so she's like, you walk into these spaces, and she said, I just couldn't help but think like I'm looking at the seats on the back wall, and like, where can I sort of, like, I didn't feel emboldened to just walk up to the front. And so she was part of helping to found this organization. And she said, I wanted a space where women got to walk in and own the room, like the men did in these conferences. And she said, as women in this particular profession, we often wonder if we have the right. And men never ask, do I have the right to be at the table? And I know that I counted my blessings to be in an organization working for a leader that saw my capacity and was willing to allow me to bring my fullest self, because that was not always the case. And I think one of the fears as a woman, and probably the same for people of color, is if I have it pretty good here and people are respecting me and my visual difference isn't getting in the way, there's no guarantee if I change companies then I'm going to find that again. People can say anything. I mean, I joined an organization and I thought, oh, like, we are so in sync. This is going to be amazing. And I got there and it was tragic. It was the exact opposite of what I thought I was signing on for. People can present anything to you as being what their culture is, what their reality is, what their commitment is, and then it can all fall apart.
And that's the fear, right? Like, it is about taking steps and risks for yourself. And men, I have worked with men that have the exact same fears. I think women are often ready to verbalize it faster. And so finding that opportunity to believe in yourself and ask yourself the difficult questions is hard, especially I think with depending on what's going on in your life. Like, we all have these different phases of our lives, and do we want to give up the opportunity to pick up the kids or go to this situation? And so instead of asking, we just assume we know the answers.
So here you are, you're thriving, you're in a career, you're in a company, you're thriving, but you got furloughed because of COVID. Happened to a lot of people in the recruiting space, right? And so you followed this other passion that you had. You started building a new skill, which opened up some new dreams for you. What was the shift in the internal story that had to happen for you, and how did that happen that allowed you to give yourself permission to make this career change?
There were a couple of shifts. I started to gain confidence in my new skills. I started to look at my team and see that they were going to be okay. I started looking at all of the things that I'd done. I was there 10 years and 8 months. So I started looking at all of the things that I had done and really kind of gave myself permission to turn it over and say, I've really taken this really far and I'm really proud of what I've done. But somebody can look at it with a fresh set of eyes, and they can build on what I've built and make it better. Right. And really making it not about me, but about an opportunity for someone else to move things forward, and kind of taking my ego out of it really helped a lot. And I kind of felt like I was giving it away. Like, I had done a lot of things and I was okay moving on. But it took some tears and some long thoughts. And I started to build a strategy. I had told a vendor that I was leaving, and bless Neil Costa, because he was like, well, come work for me. And I said, no, I can't work for you. I'm going to do my own thing. And then I called him back. I'm like, can I work for you part-time? And so I was a consultant part-time for, I don't know, about 2 years. Well, I ramped my business up and I did digital recruitment marketing and a lot of consulting with employee value propositions and personas and some of that other really fun stuff that still gave me what I was good at and kind of rounded out those skills as I built my coaching business.
One of the things that often happens is we have our own internal doubt and stories, and then we have the people surrounding us that are like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, were people cheering you on in your life? Or did you have the people that were like, what are you doing? You're in this beautiful career space. You're making this money. You're doing all these things for your family. Like, what are you doing, Susan?
It was amazing. People were amazing. My vendors were amazing. My peers were amazing. My last boss, I hadn't worked for that long. She let me go. My COO, everybody wanted to make sure that it was my choice, and they let me go and they cheered me on and they sent me referrals. And only one that wasn't quite sure was my father. He was like, I don't really understand what you're doing, but he's 88. He supported me, and he's like, I just want you to be happy. So I was really lucky because there were a few people that didn't understand, but most people were, how can I help?
That's wonderful. So I know that these kind of transitions you just don't flip the switch in your brain. Like you do sort of have these moments of light in the internal narration that's like, yes, I'm on the right path. Mm-hmm. But then those little niggling doubts just keep bombarding you like seagulls at a beach. So what were your seagulls that were trying to, dive bomb your commitment to this new path?
I think money was a big one for me. Asking people for money, asking people that I knew for money. I did a lot of free stuff in the beginning. I really had to take my head out of everybody else's wallet. My coach talks about that all the time. Take your head out of their wallet. Think about, what you offer long term. That was hard for me. Plus, I gave up a corporate salary. So a corporate salary and a really nice bonus program. And so understanding what I needed, what I didn't need, feeling guilty about maybe one less vacation this year with the kids, and making the transition as I ramped my business up was probably the biggest seagull. And I think that they're just little things like, selling yourself versus selling an organization. I had a COO that would have me stand up in front of a sales team and talk about cold calling and all of these other things that I love to do. And then the first, few times I had to sell myself, it doesn't feel the same. I can sell something else, but selling coaching and myself felt scary.
Oh, I feel that. For sure. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know. There are people that do it beautifully and effortlessly. And maybe they had to work to get to that space, but I very much know exactly what you're talking about. It is just a different mental hurdle that you have to overcome. And a lot of that gets to, again, stories that we've been told. I got this a lot of my career, that I needed to dim my light, that I was overshining other people and making them uncomfortable and all of that kind of thing. So I've been given a lot of feedback that said that I shouldn't stand so firmly. So then to go out and sell myself.
Imagine those two fighting, right? I shouldn't stand so firmly. I have to stand firmly. And then there's that whole scarcity piece too, right? Like when you're not making a lot of money in the beginning, you really want that client. When you get to a point where you're like, I don't think this is a good fit, let me introduce you to somebody, the game changes.
Yes. I think that's very, very true for certain. So for people who are in that position that you were in, what guidance could you give them? what might they be able to do to help them get their own mental reframe that could unlock this stuckness that they're in right now?
A lot of times it's about talking about what success meant in the past and what success might look like in the future.
Mm.
You know, we hang our hats on titles and salaries and all of these other pieces, which are all very important. But thinking about the other pieces that could come with asking for something like new skills, those building blocks that could put you somewhere else in the future. I worked with a woman last week, and she was looking at asking for a promotion, and she'd wanted a promotion, but the big question was, what if they said no? And I was like, well, what if they say no? Then you have an answer, right? Just
Right.
sitting here without an answer is really difficult. But if you understand what you will do with that answer, you can either ask for, another assignment, take on stretch assignments, maybe make a decision to leave a job. But if you understand what success is missing in your current role or how you want to redefine success, it changes a lot of things.
I think one of the things that happens when you're sort of in your mid career that's a little bit different than in your early career is you get a certain level. I mean, people call it the no cares to give thing, but I mean, you do sort of get to this level where you decide you just know what really matters to you, like what really brings the meaning. And sometimes it's not about chasing titles or more work, or you don't want to do the travel anymore because you want to be home to go to your kids' plays and baseball games and those kinds of things. And so I think this idea that there are different seasons for us, and we are allowed to change who we are and what we want in those seasons. I mean, I do think part of the hang up of this is watching other people around you sometimes, and it's the keeping up with the Joneses, or that envy thing, that it's like, well, if other people are still climbing or whatever, then I need to too. But I think that many of us, you get to this stage where you're like, you know what, I have to play that game anymore.
And what if we could be happy for somebody who still wanted all of that? Like, there are these amazing leaders out there who just have that urge to climb and climb and climb. What if we let them keep going and we supported them and helped them look great at whatever they were doing? And we were okay with saying, I'm going to take a 2-year break. I have this worksheet that I use with my clients. It's called the 9-year career. And we look at our careers in 3-year increments. And not only do we look at the career, but then we look at where they're at in their life. What are their maybe financial goals? What are their personal goals? And then we start to look at them and see how they line up. So then when they don't line up, then what is the decision that you want to make?
I love that.
I want to take my career and really ramp it up 2 years earlier so that by the time I get to this point, I'm at a certain place? Or do I want to give myself some room to just kind of coast in my career and really focus on something in my personal life and then ramp up at this stage? And what are the things that I'm going to be doing those 2 or 3 years so that when whatever happens, I'm ready to ask for more, for something different? But lining your personal life and your career and letting some people go now and you go later is okay.
What I love about what you're talking about, Susan, is that, again, it gets to perception and the story that we tell ourselves. And so much of the time, people, again, you're happy until you're not.
Right.
And many times people can't put their finger on what it is that changed. They don't know why they're not really happy anymore, but they're not happy anymore. so they look for answers, and it's like, well, I didn't get as good of a raise, or I got passed over for this promotion, or whatever it might be. But I think what you're naming is the truer truth of our unhappiness, which is inside of us. I
Mhm.
think we struggle to re-envision ourselves, or I mean, it's just easier to be on a path and sort of like play out those cards. And so but at some point you've run through the deck, and there's no more cards to play, and of course you're going to get unhappy. But and I think this speaks to what's so important about it, the story that we tell ourselves needs to start inside of us instead of outside of us. It's what I love about this 3-year increment thing, is it's really taking people into themselves and saying, you get to define what this is. It doesn't matter what else is going on outside of you.
100%. Right. Usually when there's some misalignment, there's a value misalignment somewhere. Something is not working together. So we're feeling bad that we're missing baseball games, or we're feeling guilty because we're not working as hard as our peer and they're carrying the weight for us right now. We all have to show up and be able to communicate what is important to us in that moment. And there are going to be times in your career, there's going to be this ebb and flow where you're going to have to give a lot more than you may want to, but you can't get stuck in the rut where that is constant. And so how do you look at the whole picture and see where that misalignment is and bring things back into play through communication and through doing the internal work to feel okay about whatever it is you have to say?
This is not a podcast that is about promoting businesses, but I have to say, you make the case so clearly without attempting to make the case for why it is so important for people to recognize this innate need that we all have to go through some level of coaching and guidance process that is bigger than ourselves. It's hard to do it for yourself. It is just so very hard. I mean, you said you had a coach guiding you along the way. We're too close to it emotionally. We're too close to it mentally. And so there's, for all of us, whatever life has for you, you get to decide what's in and what's out. Part of what I was traveling right before I went on vacation was to the World Happiness Summit. And once again, I got to see Dr. Fred Luskin present. He's doing wonderful work in the area of forgiveness, but he was talking about happiness. And he said, the root of happiness is wanting what you have. It's that simple.
Wow.
When you want what you have, you're happy. And this is your values alignment thing, your meaning alignment thing, right? When you're not feeling happy, that means that something is out of alignment. And that check of, what do I have, and do I have what I need, and can I accept this as enough? Because when it's not enough, when we're on the quest, that's the stress. The quest is the stress.
The word enough is a word that I hear all the time. Like, when is it enough? How do you know it's enough? I think that is such a great point, like, to find enough. There are so many things. I mean, when I started my own business, right, like, we made some cuts, and it was so funny to find out that we had enough. And then when I started, selling coaching and all that stuff, like, what was enough? We don't always look for that level base set of enough. And sometimes it's like, how do you want to be treated? What is enough? And how do you want to show up? It's not always just about the things we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not always about the pay. It's not always about the
Mhm.
benefits. It's, when you get into the specific career track, it's so easy to get wrapped around the axle on those things
Right.
and find out that they actually steal your happiness and your joy,
Mhm.
right? Because when you sometimes you're making the wrong trade-off in those things.
And sometimes it's just a reframe. I had a woman come to me a couple of years ago, and she's like, "I need to find a new job. I, I really, I've got to get out." And so we put a plan together, a strategy, resume, interview coach, all of these things, and we started talking about why and what she had and what was enough and what did success look like. And she realized she had it all. She'd let a few little bitty things get in the way of her happiness, and with some communication tweaks and some balance and expectations, she didn't want to leave, but she
I
had
love that.
got twisted up in some of these little things and started to only be able to see those.
Alan, thanks for joining us. I'm glad you said hello. I hope I get to see you on the ledge later today. Well, it's time to wrap up. Our time just goes by so fast.
So
But
fast.
Susan, I love it. I mean, I don't know that there's any stronger parting words than those that you can give. But any final thoughts that you want to share with everyone before we say goodbye?
There were so many things that we talked about, but I do believe that it is the balance and thinking ahead to the things that you want, not only now, but in your future, and putting those building blocks together. I appreciate you having me today. You can always find me at the Network Concierge online or on LinkedIn. And I wish you continued success with the story that you're telling yourself and unwrapping all of these really great stories.
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, friends, thank you for being with us today. Share this episode with someone you know, especially think about people at different stages in their career. I bet you know somebody that's new in their career that sort of needs to hear this. And I bet you know some people that are further along in their career that are also in this moment of struggle. And I hope you will pass this valuable conversation along. There's nobody better in this business than Susan. I'm just a huge fan, and it's been a pleasure to get to talk about this with you today, Susan. And I know that we are sharing information that people are going to use in valuable ways. So thank you for being the guest today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See you guys. Oh, let's see. We have another episode coming up. I think it's Thursday. I should be more prepared for this, but I'm coming back from vacation. I'm a little off my game. Tracy Borson is joining me, and we are going to talk about, should I stay or should I go now? So similar theme this week, actually, in our guest, but we're going to talk about this and she is all about authenticity, about showing up as your authentic self and really finding that story that is telling you to compromise your authenticity, because you don't have to do that. So you're going to want to come back and join us for that episode. Apologize that I don't have it right in my hand when it is, but you're going to see it on my social, so you're going to find it there. Thank you again, Susan. Everybody have a wonderful day. I'll see you later in the week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on The Story I'm Telling Myself. If you loved this episode, would you do us a big favor to help us reach a bigger audience? Simply subscribe to the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast and rate this episode and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening.